Q&A with actress Lena Headey at Laemmle Monica Film Center. Movie, The Flood, about the hardship of a poor refugee migrating to a new country. I come from another universe and from another dimension governed by different laws of physics. I have taken on the human form to get to know more about what you call Earth.
Lena Headey.
All right, everyone. Ooh, don't think I'm on. Am I on? Hello. Morning.
Thanks for coming out.
Pleasure.
Shall we dive right in?
Let's do it.
All right. So, the subject matter covered in The Flood is a cause really close to your heart.
Indeed.
I know you did work with the International Rescue Committee. How did you get involved with the IRC? And perhaps you can explain a little about what they do.
Yes, well, I think we were like last season of Game of Thrones, and the Syrian crisis had just come to sort of arrived in the press with the dead body of Alan Curley, the little boy, in his life jacket. And I think, like most people with a sense of humanity, I was rocked by it and didn't comprehend how and why it was happening without any aid. And I started to speak to people about what we could do, and then HBO joined forces with the IRC, and I kind of got to travel with them and started working with them.
How did you get involved in The Flood? How did it reach you?
My agent sent me the script and said, I think this is something you will that will resonate with you, particularly now as it's all happening. And I loved Helen's writing. I think it's really bold without being leading, and it's just very smart.
So, given your personal involvement with this issue, what was it like for you to play someone charged with sending refugees back to where they fled?
Horrible. Because you see Ivano, who did such a beautiful job playing Hailey, working with him and trying to not connect on any human level was really difficult for me. It took all I had not to kind of sit and cry with him. But I think it's an important story. You know, people sit behind desks and become numb to what's happening in the world.
Got it. So, from a liberal perspective, it's easy to judge people like
Fucking
Wendy.
liberals.
Yeah, it's easy to judge people like your character Wendy as the bad guys.
All liberals.
Were you tempted, or was this an issue for you playing, someone like Wendy?
Say that again. I was not listening to you. Just to be honest.
So, from a liberal perspective, it's easy to judge people like Wendy, as a bad guy. Were you tempted? Was that an issue for you playing someone like that?
No, I don't do what I do to be liked. I just do what I do because it interests me. So not an issue. No.
Okay. So what cliches or other traps were you keen to avoid in the portrayal of the refugee experience?
Well, I sort of knew we'd avoid it because of Helen's script. Like I say, I think it was incredibly smart, and it doesn't, hopefully you'll all agree from watching the film, it doesn't shove anything in your face. It doesn't kind of tell you to think a certain way. It's very honest, and it leaves you to breathe and kind of come to your own conclusion about what's happening in the world.
So, although The Flood tells the story of what's going on in the UK, it's obviously much more of a global issue. And the film's timing is arguably more necessary than ever. So, what would you like audience to take away from this film? And who would you like it to reach out to?
Well, we talked about this. We had a screening in London for BAFTA not long ago, and we said the reason that we made this film, all of us, was because this conversation should not end. Because what's happening globally is not going to end, and the more we fuck with the world, it's going to just make it worse for everybody, us included. And so to think that this problem is, I hate calling it a problem because we're talking about human beings, to say that this issue is just going to stop tomorrow because we're not talking about it is just deeply wrong. It's like, you know, climate change. We kind of go, oh, it doesn't affect me right now, but it's fucking gonna. So I think just open discussion and to keep pushing and talking about these people who are dying and losing families and suffering unthinkable trauma every day is, I just know as a conscious human being and a person who has two small people to raise, I can't not discuss it.
Right. So the team that made The Flood are, you know, pretty much at the start of their career.
Yes.
And what was that like for you?
It was good. I could ruin some young lives with my cynicism and bitterness. No, it was wonderful. We had such a great, young, talented, fearless crew, and so to be part of something like that, I love being part of small things that just have an energy, and everybody's on board, not because we made millions, right, Luke? But because you want to be there and you want to make something that's going to make a difference, is going to cause change, is going to cause some conversation.
Right.
So I like that environment.
So congratulations on the trap.
Oh, thank you.
I know
Yay.
you've been keen to direct for a while.
Yes.
So how did it go? What was it like?
But just a dream.
Really?
Yeah.
And how long was the shoot?
We made it. There's Anthony up there, everybody, who produced it. Don't like him, but won't leave me alone. We did it in 4.5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, good fun. We lived on crisps, chips, you guys, from a vending machine. It was very glamorous.
So if it's okay with you, I'm going to open it up to the floor.
Sure.
So,
Be nice, you guys, I'm sober.
and let's try to keep it on topic, please.
I'm jealous.
So, any questions? You, sir, in the back. If you want to stand up, yeah, you.
Oh. Thank you.
Oh, I can't see that far. I apologize.
May I ask, obviously scripts come a long time before they're actually made. Had you seen the play The Jungle before you saw the script, or have you seen it now that you've been a part of the movie?
I have not. No, I've not seen it.
I believe it's up in the Redbubble right now, but I caught it last year at St. John's Warehouse, and it's this entire issue, and honestly, I feel extremely ignorant because of the person that noticed this issue, but I just feel like if you haven't seen it, if this is something that's near and dear to your heart, I highly recommend it.
Yes, thank you for that recommendation.
Please.
Okay, I'm right here.
Hi, are you going to offer me booze?
I'm sorry.
Very selfish.
First off, I want to thank you. I went through a really dark time a few years ago, and your personality on social media and interviews pulled me through that, and I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that, so thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
You can't answer that, just with a hug.
You helped me out so much, you have no idea. What can I do in the U.S. to help this situation as somebody who works as a, medium income type of, to help out with the situation? Because I mean, you actually encouraged me to open my eyes to this whole thing. So, besides donate, I guess.
I mean, here's the thing. I think we all struggle with what can I do? I do. I always think I'm not doing enough. We all have our own lives. We all have our own stuff going on. I think being open to conversation and talking to people and pushing things forward, no matter how small that feels, is if we all do that, it's going to keep change, it's going to keep momentum going. And I think that's what we all can do right now.
You did influence me to the site Choose Love.
Oh yeah.
I love donate to that. I love to see what my proceeds go to.
Yeah.
So thank you. I mean, you've just opened my eyes to a lot of things in the world, and just like I said before, it helped me a lot through a lot of things. I'm here today because of you, so thank you so much.
That's huge. So fucking go you, warrior.
Next question.
So I just got back from Moria, which is a refugee camp on the island.
I know it well. It's a fucking hellhole.
Yeah. So I was going to say, as far as what can you do, yes, when you're in the States you can't do much, but paying attention is huge. Global policies are made by the voice of people, and if everyone around the world were to pay attention and understand that this is going on, it is perfectly possible that policies might change. And ultimately, that is what helps these people. There are millions of refugees around the world, and global policies have to change in order for anything to change for them. Do you want a question?
I'm basking in your wisdom.
I'll give you a question. What would you say to European nations as to what they can do potentially to help alleviate at least some of the refugee crisis that's knocking on their door from Greece? How's that?
Well, I'm glad I'm a politician. Here we go.
What would you say?
I mean, listen, from my experience of camps and politicians that I've met, governments that I've met, military people running camps, that I've met NGOs, refugees, the sort of overriding thing is we do, in the EU, we have money, right? We have money to help to move things forward, to embrace people. But what's happening is we're bringing people who don't speak the language, who there's no infrastructure set up for them when they arrive in a new country. And so, and also, you know, we, as we all know, globally, we are leaning into right-wing politics, which is fucking us all up. And people are doing their best, but it needs to be a bigger conversation with more money behind it. And I think that is happening in certain places. But then now, you know, on the Greek-Turkish border, there's pushback. People are being murdered daily, and it's being ignored by the press, which is disgraceful. But like you say, you know, you push policymakers for change, and we all raise our voice when we can, and we don't stop talking and making things that cause discussion. What else can you do? Also, just fucking love each other. Like, it's really simple. It's really simple.
And vote.
And vote.
Yeah.
Yes. That's also a good option at this point.
Tuesday. I wondered if you had any thoughts or advice maybe on how we do talk to our kids about these types of issues in the world. My son just turned 8 and he is a little anxiety ridden, and I don't want to weigh him down with things that he can't quite grasp yet, but I also want him to know that it could just as easily be us who has this happen, and to have that compassion instilled in him. I wonder how you talk to your kids, you talk to them about this.
Yeah, I do. And they're like, oh God. But like you say, it's, you know, this generation that's coming up are facing things that we could never have conceived of. And I know it sounds very simple saying love is love, but that's how I live on a daily basis. I think that's something that gets you through, it lifts you up. It can make things clearer. But yeah, compassion, and like you say, that's how I feel about this situation. It's like, it could be us, so easily could be us. There's only geography right now, that's it. And yet, you know, there's a sense of entitlement and kind of doesn't affect me, which is the ignorant voice that doesn't create change, just keeps fear moving. So yeah, we just raise some good peeps.
Yeah.
maybe a joint question for filmmaker and for Lena about, so a story like this is so rooted in fact in the real world, right? It's not a fantastical sci-fi, something like that. So I read in the foreword about how they were pulled from a true story. So I was wondering what your experience was in the process, or you met with immigration officers and learned about their experience, or where the stories directly came from, and how it kind of came into being. So I don't know.
Luke, get a microphone.
Come on down.
Helen the writer.
This is Luke who produced. Come on. Sit your ass down. Tell these people some stories.
Is this on? Is this on? No. The technical man. Thank you, Paul. Well, she can talk about that. But Helen, the writer, did meet. Sorry, Lena. Sorry, Lena Headey can talk about that from her perspective. But Helen, the writer, did meet with 3 immigration officers actually. Yeah, and we had to be a little bit careful because it's very true, and that actually a lot of the questions that Lena posed were verbatim. So yeah, in many ways, I mean, as probably people in this room know, researching the refugees wasn't quite so hard because there's so many, and from England, Calais was not far. We, the 3 of us, myself, the director, and the writer, went and volunteered at the jungle, and the scene with I thought that was you trying to tell me what I should be saying.
I'm just politely listening to you.
The scene with the trafficker, that cafe was exactly as it was. Yeah, we went to that room and we experienced that. But so in many ways, the where Helen's beautiful skill really flourished actually was with the stuff in the immigration room, because that was so truthful, and that was down to Helen and her tenacity and skill. It's a passion it's something that's really close to her heart as a subject, so she relentlessly researched it.
I just want to say thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And put it out there.
Well, we're trying. I mean, seeing as you said that, it's, we had very, very good reviews in the UK. I think the reality is, we're living it at the moment. If it's not one, there are a lot of issues going on at the moment, and I think people, and I get it. I've got 6-year-old kids. I work hard. I have a partner. Blah, blah, blah. Am I going to go and see a movie like this? Am I going to go and spend it on my night off and, for the babysitter and all that?
No, you're going to see Fast and Furious 9.
Well, no, actually, I'm going to go see Cars 3 again.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand. It's a tough watch. It's not an easy movie. One criticism that was levelled at us in the UK, warmly, was that the only thing that's unrealistic about the film is the ending, because rarely does that happen. Rarely is there that hope. I was adamant, actually, that we can't put ourselves through this and an audience without giving them some sense that we can change, even if it doesn't happen, if we don't know that we can make things change. So I would encourage you and ask you blatantly to, tell your friends that you've seen this, put a word out there, because there is a time and a place to watch this film. It may not be with a babysitter in a lovely theatre like this. We're very grateful to Laemmle, I can never say it. Is that right? Thank you, Kirk. And our fantastic sales agents, Myriad, who are here this evening as well, who've set it all up. So we're very grateful, and I would love it to be in more theatres. God, I would. But I understand, so please tell people.
I have a quick question on The Trap, which I saw recently. What influenced you visually on it?
Visually, my big influences are Cassavetes movies, 70s free film, and Shane Meadows, who's a British filmmaker who I slightly idolise. But just, it was more about, I wanted it to be visually beautiful, but I also wanted to give the actors freedom, and it's sort of shooting that way.
And being an actor yourself, it must have been amazing to understand what the actors are going through and how to direct them.
Yeah, that's part of my joy of doing that is I know what it takes to be an actor, and I love actors, and to give people space and freedom to go somewhere maybe where they think they couldn't or they wouldn't is a real pleasure. Yeah.
Awesome. Sir.
Yes, it's very rare.
Do you have booze?
It's a hand sanitizer.
Saturday night, guys. I'll take it.
Well, I wanted to just say it's very rare in this climate to really get to movies with as powerful messages that expose issues like refugee immigration made today, and I'm so grateful that you guys were able to make this. As a follow-up, what sort of other issues would you like to explore, or would you be passionate about kind of presenting to an audience such as ourselves for future films?
Well, I'm talking about a documentary. I don't think we can get into Moria camp, but well, not after I spoke about it. So honestly. But yeah, I try to find a sort of angle to make something where we would get an audience, because we're talking about something that needs to be spoken about, but also there's a sense of hope and progress in it. So I'm working on a couple of things that I think will be really beautiful to put out there.
Next question.
Is there, what's sort of the trend with the immigration laws in Europe?
There's my son. Oh, he's not really. Kind of.
Is there a trend that they're opening up their borders now a little bit more, or is the trend that it's more nationalistic, they're protecting their borders?
Second version. Yes. Until we get these old white men the fuck out. Or orange, yeah.
Next question.
I got one up here. Hey, Lena, I produced a film with Sean Watson called Union that you were in Korea.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say thank you for that. We're actually starting a series, getting stories from camps and working with a group called Lost Faces of Command. So I'd like to talk about that too.
Yeah. Let's do it. That's very cool.
It's in, yeah, do you know John? Oh, okay, so anyway, that's amazing that you know as well. It's a tank camp in the Sudanese refugees.
Todd Snyder on Instagram, if you look him up, you'll see the pictures he takes.
Okay, will do. Good stuff. Do we have a love match? Something's
Does he have booze?
Any other questions?
First of all, I just wanted to say about Laemmle. Carl Laemmle was the founder of Universal Studios, and he also...
I know who he is. I just can never pronounce his name. Please advocate him.
He also saved a lot of immigrants because he helped so many Jews, saying that they were needed to work for Universal Studios, and brought them over during World War II. Standing up to hate and to these anonymous, evil people who would be these naysayers to you when you are speaking for right and for great causes. So I just want you to please keep up the good fight, because we need voices like yours. There's so few of them.
I don't read those comments. Sometimes I do. And then I don't reply.
I clearly forgot it. I'm thinking about it just
See? Yeah.
I just wanted to speak to kind of a few things you all said, but and how we can actually make change if this thing does scream at your heart. In LA, you can help refugees that are here. There are refugee or rescue.org. There's Catholic Charities of LA where you can help refugees with to get jobs, how to help them with finding local grocery stores, food banks, clothing. There's so many things we can do here in LA that if you're a real on the ground, just tangible, I just want to help. you can do that if that's something that you want to do or to tell other people about here in LA, because we do have so many refugees here.
That's a really good point as to your question earlier, is meeting refugees that have moved and been granted asylum into new places. That's the one thing that is a constant, is that they don't feel wanted and they don't feel seen and they don't feel like they belong. And so being brave enough to stop into one of these places and sign up and do simple things is a really beautiful, powerful thing.
Okay, so I'm a pediatrician here in Los Angeles. I work with like a lot of immigrant children. And I live in Hollywood and, well, around Hollywood. But I see that there's like this dichotomy in Los Angeles with like Hollywood that's like totally separate, and then like the immigrant community and like kind of low income community. Do you think Hollywood is doing enough to support these things and to make these films? And do you think it's hard to make these films and produce these films? Because I feel like Cars and, you know, Fast and Furious end up getting all this, you know, money and, you know, blockbuster films, big audiences, and yet films that are actually speaking to what's happening really have a hard time getting funded. And so what can Hollywood and people in Hollywood and people that are in like show business do to kind of like give back, not even just in the immigrant situation, but like all, like in many, many different situations?
Do you mean in terms of making more films?
Yeah. Or even volunteering. Do you think that they do it enough? Like, do you think that...
I can't speak for the folk in Hollywood. All I know is to make something that is a difficult conversation and isn't an easy sell is a grind to get it made.
How do you find it? How do I find it or fund it? Fund it. Well, that's another story. A beautiful story. But well, we have a philanthropist, a woman with a who had, you know, a wealthy woman with a very big heart who funded us. I think you just have to do it. I think you have to do it on whatever level. And that doesn't mean you have to make a film, but I think you have to educate yourself. I think you have to talk about it. I think you have to have it in your life. And I make films, so it's in my life. I think whatever we do, we've got to do what we can. And even if that is just having that difficult conversation with a coworker when they say something that's a bit offensive, or, you know, marching. We love marching in England. We do a lot of marching. Whatever it is that you think about what's different. Keep it at the front of your mind, because it's only going to get worse. That's a fact. It's not going to, it's not for the foreseeable future. And act, take action.
First, I would like to say thank you, because, like you said, I'm one of those person who wasn't really aware that this is such a pressing issue up there, but now I'm educated, and this is something I would definitely think about long after I walked out of the studio. But one thing that really captures me is the scene portrayed by Lena, when they're actually talking about, how will my daughter think that she's going to hate me? That kind of intrigues me. From the production crew viewpoint, what is the reasoning behind actually incorporating the personal life of this immigration office? Because I'm just curious. It's one of the impactful scenes that I found.
Well, I think that it was impactful because Helen is a brilliant writer, and also, everybody has their own story. That's what I'm saying. We all have our own shit going on, but it doesn't mean you can't positively impact someone else, right? And I think to know Wendy as a broken person herself, it's just an important kind of cinematic tool to have.
So I don't have a question, I have a comment. First of all, Michelle and I just love you so much, Lena. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Oh, I'm going to come up there.
I think everything, however, is said,
involved and what can I do, what can Hollywood do, what can other people do. It's all about what everybody's saying. It starts with us. I think, we want to watch Fast and the Furious, and we want to go ahead and live in this perfect world. But once we start, social media is great right now. It's big, it's huge, and we follow our role models, and we see what it's being posted, what's out there, what's going on. It's where and how we can start paying attention and actually following, because she doesn't just post, she also tells me what to do, where to go, how can you help. She posts all her emotions in there as well. I've seen you cry there as well. And so sometimes we don't watch TV, the news, because we don't want to see the sad stuff. But once we start looking at our role models and we see them post all these issues that are going on, it makes you wake up and realize, okay, we should be looking into this. Maybe I can do a little donation here. How can I get more involved? So I think it's more of that. It just takes one little view, and then it can expand your mind into looking into anything else. So thank you, and we miss you so much on Game of
There's a spin-off, guys.
I went with my boyfriend to Game of Thrones live, the concert, and just hearing her voice chills. I was so excited. I was thinking, oh my God, I hope she comes out. I hope she comes out. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, just to what you said about, donating, don't ever think what you do is too small or won't make a difference, because it does. Never, ever, ever think that. I just want to say that.
thank you.
No. No.
I want to know if you drew from your character vodka. Is that your favorite? Well, you guys are secretly drinking up there, Lena. And Luke.
It was, we drank meat vodka. As you well know, we just worked together. That's what I did.
There have been some really amazing comments in here. I have a more lame question in a way. For all of us Americans who aren't used to the beauty of the British language, could you tell us what that accent was that you were interpreting?
Honestly, don't know.
It sounded different from your normal speech.
Yeah, I sort of leaned into the bit of northern. I don't know what I was doing.
Just roughed up you.
Just roughed up. A little bit of Thai of me. That's where I'm from. I'm just very, very posh. I'm not really. I just put it on. Went back to my roots.
Yes, sir.
I may have booze.
Ivana Jeremiah.
Why are you not down here? Get your ass down here. Help you avoid that man, seriously. Don't hide up there.
LA traffic, what can I say?
Come on.
In the wake of the flood.
Don't ask a question.
Go on. Like, we've spoken about the difficulties in standing up for what you believe in. And you, in no way, limit yourself in doing so. And I thank you for that, and that's why I do it. Have you noticed any doors opening, sort of, on the back of this? Has there been any more give, or is there any more leverage? How's it working out?
You mean for the situation?
What kind of? I mean, sort of as an in as well. Sort of, has the flood helped some of your work abroad more?
No. I mean, I wish I could say. But here's the joy of our film is that people who write about what's happening in the world have seen the film and speak very highly of it and know of its importance. But I don't think anything's going to make doors open, because people just don't want to, as we know, they don't want to discuss it. And it's, you know, look at there's no reporting on it. You have to search to find something, and it's like, you know, I have friends on the ground who send me videos and talk to me about what's going on, and it makes me weep every day. So no, not yet, but working on it.
Well, last question.
How did you find working with Ivano?
Ivano.
Laemmle
and Ivano.
Well, he won't come down here, so that should tell you something. It was very tricky. I love him. He's incredible. He's a beautiful human, and as you saw, beyond talented.
Actually, I'm going to add that just because you won't say this and you wouldn't know this. I've said this many times. I don't think I've said this to you, Tom. I've certainly not said it on the mic. I've never had such an exciting sort of experience on a set with Ivano, Lena, and Ian. Ian is sort of a consummate professional. I'd made of his, you know, he knew exactly what he was doing. All right. He knew what he wanted to do, you know, and he'd made his shot, and then just sort of sat very quietly. And you sort of just, it kind of came to a boil throughout the rehearsals and popped when we shot. And Ivano is just this sort of, as you could tell, just sort of this massively open-hearted human being, receptive to what was going on. It was like 3 different styles or techniques or whatever, I don't know, and it was just, we were just, yeah, there were bristles, and it was, you know, as you said, very, very young, inexperienced crew. Just weeping in some of those scenes, and not being comfortable about weeping, because they had jobs to do, but also just, that's not what you do on the set, you know, and just being completely pulled in by these 3 very, very different styles and very, very strong performances.
Well, we're going to wrap things up. I just wanted to thank Lena.
Thank you guys for coming, watching, and spread the word, and you're wicked.